Good evening, everyone. It's 5:30 p.m. and the Cleveland City Schools Board of Education meeting will now come to order. First item on the agenda is we're going to have a moment of silence and a pledge of allegiance led by Ms. Ava Davis.
If everyone can please pause for the moment of silence. And if everyone can now stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you to Dr. Joel Bonds and his team for hosting us tonight, and for Dr. Cody Raper and his team for getting us set up here in this auditorium. It's greatly appreciated. As chairman of the Cleveland City Schools Board of Education, I'm committed to running an orderly meeting and an efficient meeting, treating everyone with respect. Board members will be provided equal voice for all matters, should communicate through the director of schools for addressing his staff. A couple reminders for parents in the community. Board of Education policies can be found on the clevelandschools.org website. When there, click on District, Board of Directors, and select Board Policies. Our meetings are not public forum. However, the board has made accommodations for a city resident, Cleveland City Schools employee, or parent guardian of a Cleveland City Schools student to address the board via School Board Policy 1.404, which includes two options along with the requirements listed. Those options being appearing before the board via pre-meeting request and addressing the board on an agenda item via the same day request. First item on the agenda is public comments. Do we have any public comments?
We do not.
We do not have any public comments. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Would board members like to remove anything from the consent agenda? All right. I'd like to entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda as prepared.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. All right, the next item on the agenda is director's update. I'll turn it over to Dr. Dyer.
All right, well, good evening, everyone. It's good to see those of you in the crowd and behind us today, and to our board members, welcome. Just a few updates for today from me. First, we were able this morning to surprise Miss Lisa Eason, who is an ESL teacher in our system, with our February Blue Star Award winner. She was nominated by several folks in the community, and we were very happy to surprise her today in her office, and she was definitely surprised. We don't have pictures and things ready yet, but that'll be on social media soon, so congratulations to Miss Eason on that award. Also, want to announce February the 19th, it's President's Day. Students, you know what happens President's Day? School's out. That's exactly right. So school will be closed on the 19th, and offices will be closed too. Just want to make sure everyone's aware of that. I'm going to skip down one real quick. We're going to go to the next. This past weekend, very proud of our boys and our girls for winning the state duels championships for their areas, and they did a fantastic job. Very proud of them. Very proud of all those who were in attendance. We had a huge crowd there, and it was a lot of fun cheering them on. We started at 9 o'clock in the morning, ended about 9 o'clock in the evening. But long day, but a good day, and it was very good to be there with those young men and women and their coaches who work so incredibly hard each and every day at practices. And of course, they're still going because the traditional tournament is coming up in about 2 weeks. So they've got more to go, but congratulations to them. The TSBA Legislative and Legal Conference is coming up February 12th and 13th. I know several board members are going to be going to that. I will be speaking on the panel dealing with cybersecurity and some of the things that we've done here in Cleveland, working closely with Dr. Raper and Dr. Elliott, talk to them, make sure that I'm up to speed on some things that they've been working on. But I look forward to being there at that particular conference and also speaking on that. Now, going back up just a little bit, the Lifetime Memory Mission Trip. I mentioned this last month. But since we've met last, I've had the opportunity to go with the Lifetime Memory Mission Trip. LifeTouch, it's LifeTouch, not Lifetime. LifeTouch is a photography company that works through school systems all around the United States and really up in Canada too. And every year for the last 24 years, they have taken school administrators, superintendents, and then members of their own group on a memory mission. If we go to the next screen, Dr. Raper, these are just a few pictures of what we were working on. These three guys became my right and left hands. They worked with me all week long. This was my little bottle crew, and what we did was literally build a bottle school. Now, it's made out of concrete and steel as far as the girders and things go, but the insulation is bottles, much like what you have on your table that are filled with trash from the community. This community buy-in is they have to make these bottle bricks, and the bottles weigh about a pound apiece, and it's really a strong, sturdy wall that's built. And then, as you can see in that picture with the green, concrete's letter poured and the design is made out. And these schools last a long, long time because the environment in Guatemala is a little different than the environment here. It's not as damp or anything. So it's a really cool STEM type project. When you talk about STEM and the work we're doing in STEM, that's about as STEM as it gets. So a neat project, and we built 3 classrooms for that particular community, and can't wait to see the finished product and maybe visit down there again sometime. We'll see. So anyway, that's my update. I wanted to just show you a few pictures from the memory mission trip, and can't wait to, again, see that final product. But that is my February update.
Thank you, Dr. Dyer.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dyer. Next on the agenda, we have Spotlight, and we're spotlighting Blythe Bower Elementary School.
Yeah, so board members, we might want to go out that way and have a seat and watch the choir. But Dr. Barnes is going to come up and tell us what we're hearing and some other great things that are happening.
Yeah, so appreciate you guys being in the building tonight, and I always take the opportunity to brag on our students and our schools. So I just want to take a few minutes and go over a few things that we have going on here at Blythe Bower, and then I'm going to turn it over to these kids behind you who've been working extremely hard. So just a couple of things that we have in place at Blythe Bower that you guys have seen when you visited us recently, but our house system, we have our 4 crests at the bottom there. Our school is divided into 4 houses. All students and staff are parts of one of those houses, and it's just a community building thing that we do, and we also tied in with positive behavior support. So those are our 4 houses. This month, we are highlighting a house each month, or each week, and asking each student to wear colors from that house and show school unity, and highlighting facts and certain things about each house on the intercom each morning. So that's been exciting. All Pro Dad and iMom, if you're not familiar with those events that we host once a month here at Blythe Bower, we alternate months, so one month will be All Pro Dad and one month will be iMom. We host breakfast for dads and kids and moms and kids just to get together and sit down and talk for a few minutes. We provide talking points, provide some activities and games for them, but it's just a time of bonding. And our favorite part of All Pro Dad and iMom is the I'm proud of you moment. So we take just a minute for moms and dads to tell their kids something they're proud of them for, and our kids love it. Our very first All Pro Dad breakfast of the year, we had over 300 dads and kids show up. So this room was packed, the room across the hall was packed, and the hallways were packed too. So we have a great turnout for those, and our parents and kids love them. You guys were with us at the Beta Convention in Nashville. So we took 19 students and 7 adults with us to Nashville and came home with 6 state placers from that. So we were excited about that. We have got a chess club up and running. Started in the spring of last year and it's kicked back off again this year. It meets every Monday and Thursday. Mr. Terry Colston in 5th grade leads that organization, and we have about 40 students who stay for chess on Monday and Thursday afternoons. We have our 4th and 5th grade choir, and I'll get to them in just a minute. They're going to sing for you in just a second. Girls on the Run is kicking back off. I'm sure you're familiar with that, but we are starting a new season of that. We ran last year in the 5K in December and had quite a few girls participating. We have quite a few signed up for this year as well. The very last one, if Mr. Raper or Dr. Raper will switch to the next slide, I want to show you guys something we're super excited about. It just arrived right before we were shut down for the cold and ice. But it's our book vending machine, and we've got a couple of pictures up here on the screen for you guys. It's right down the hall. If you get a chance before you leave tonight, please check it out. But our students are super excited about that. We are using that as a positive behavior support as well. Students can earn golden coins that go into the machine, and they can pick a book of their choice. So we're very excited. Students might giggle a little bit. We did a Google Live on Friday morning, kicking off the event, and I tested it Friday morning, everything worked well. Got on the Google Live in front of the whole school, and the machine didn't work. As soon as the Google Live cut off, the machine worked again. I don't know. I guess it's camera shy, but it's just one of those things that we're very excited about. These are our first 5 winners We had 6, but one was absent that day, so they were showing off their books. So we're very excited about that. If you get a chance, check it out in the hallway. Behind you is our Blythe Bauer 4th and 5th grade choir. They have been working hard. They performed at our Veterans Day performance. They practiced. It was every Thursday after school, but now they practice in the mornings before school as well. So they are going to sing a brief song for you tonight. Thanks to Miss Michelle Johnson. She is their director and does a fabulous job with them. So, do you guys want to come out here or turn your chairs around?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. With liberty and justice for all. Beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of rain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruits and grain. America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of Maryland and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And liberty and justice for all. America, America of the unseen.
I get distracted. All right, next on the agenda, we have interim director of school selection. So let's open it up for discussion or making a motion, however you guys want to proceed.
Do we want to review the candidates in summary and then allow that to start a discussion maybe?
We can, but I would hope that everyone read the summary that was sent.
I'll speak on my point. I've kind of made this, I spoke with each of the candidates, had a good chance to interview each of them, and I see this maybe a little differently than some of the others. I've seen this as an opportunity to get an outsider's look in and give us some ideas of things that we can, that we might be able to do and continue to enhance the school system. And so I have, I felt pretty good about having one of the two outsider candidates, either Mr. McDaniel or Mr. Taylor, come in and just give us a new perspective, give us some observations that maybe we've overlooked, and obviously with that having some constraints in place so that the boat is not rocked too much and that there's not too many issues with the way the administration continues to operate and function, but also to give us that opportunity for a brief insight from an outsider looking in. And so my feelings and my leanings would be to one of either Bob or Johnny. I think they both provide some great insights and a great background. All four candidates are obviously highly qualified. I think all four candidates would come in with the school system at the forefront of their intentions and their thoughts. So that's kind of my position.
Okay.
So I'll state my position. My priority would be to create as little disturbance as possible, to try to maintain as much continuity and stability as possible. It's already going to be a tumultuous time, and I think that if as much consistency and little disturbance as possible, so I lean toward an internal candidate. I think that I agree with Matt that we have four very highly qualified candidates. We're very fortunate to be able to choose from those. I love the idea of getting some outside perspective. I think that might be something the board might look into doing in terms of maybe hiring a consultant that would come in with a systematic analysis and be able to report back to the board. That might be something worth exploring outside of this process. My concern it might cause more disruption, so I would lean toward an internal candidate.
I guess I'm agreeing with Krista, because I think this is a particularly stressful time for our staff, and also it's still a learning time for the person who would be coming in. I don't know how easy it would be for them to make suggestions, and we have such good people that could take over. I feel very comfortable with the staff that we have here today, that they could keep things going exactly like they have been and maintain the good effects that we've had, because I think we're an excellent school system, and I'd like to see it continue. And I hate to see Dr. Dyer leave, because he's done a great job, but he's also trained people well. And I feel very comfortable with everyone here.
I agree with Peggy and Krista. Both candidates that are from within have been with their systems many, many years. And I just hesitate to see someone from the outside who knows very little about our system. And by it being such a short time, I'm not sure how much someone from the outside would have time to see what's happening in Cleveland City. And another reason is with and this probably the first time this has been mentioned, but with the consolidation or merger program that they're trying to start, I just think that we don't need someone to come in from the outside and try to see what's happening within our system, that we can our two candidates, whichever one they are. I think they can handle it, and I hesitate to see an outsider come in.
Well, I've tried to give this a lot of thought, and I've tried to talk to people, get opinions and views. And I want to respect our staff and their feelings, so I'm trying to take that into account. I think, I nominated Johnny McDaniel because I think he would be great. That was before we discussed, changing the policy and, but also, looking back, I kind of see the wisdom of our policy, and I may not have voted that way had I given it a little more thought. So I'm fine with going with an internal person, but I don't think it should be someone who's running for school board. I mean, sorry, for director of schools.
So all four would be great interims. I did vote to waive the policy at the time because at the time, the only person that was willing to do it was Jeff. But now there's been more discussion. I still lean towards somebody like Johnny or Bob as an opportunity to come in for a short period of time. They have no intention of a full-time directorship, but I think it would be nice to get their input.
So I guess that leaves me to give my opinion. And so, this is a thought that I think is very strategic in nature. And first, let me say, this isn't about any one person's, internal or external. I do like the idea of having an assessment done, and no matter when it's done during the search of a director, or when it's done on the other side of someone being hired, there's going to be anxiety, okay? And, living through that myself, people just naturally will be anxious because of change. And the change curve will be high, and then once it settles out, everything's be back to a normal operation. Now, I personally leaning toward Johnny McDaniel for that very reason, and here are some clear reasons why. Johnny McDaniel has served as two superintendents in schools, and he has been very successful in both systems that he served, and he has a plethora of years of experience. And in my conversations with him, I just simply asked him, if you were selected, what would you do? And he went down through several comments and things that he would do. But most importantly, he said, I would support what's happening at Cleveland City Schools. Now, for those of you that are familiar with Strengths Finders, it's a test that, or may not be familiar with Strengths Finders, it's a test that is given and gives you your top 5 strengths out of the 34. And out of this conversation, he and I's strengths aligned on 3 of the 5. And so I started just asking questions. And one of the questions that I asked, because he served as 2 superintendents, and he went in these positions not knowing anything about the schools other than what he's learned on his own. So I asked him, what if, because I know that there's this discussion that's happening tonight, what if someone was given an opportunity to come in and give you their thoughts objectively when you were a superintendent in both of those places? Would that have been helpful? And he said, absolutely, that would have been helpful, because that would have helped me shape some things differently than what he's originally did. And so I think there is value in that, having that, but if the board decides to go the other direction, like always, I'll go with the direction of the board. But I do think there's value in that happening, and this is a great opportunity to do that. Again, this isn't about what someone's doing or not doing. This is about making sure that whoever we select as our only employee, all right, whoever we select as our only employee is equipped up front to take this to the next level. And so this may not be a surprise, or maybe a surprise to you. I disagree that Cleveland City is an excellent school, right? We're a good school. I do not think we're excellent, right? And I base that on a book from Jim Collins, and the book is Good to Great. And there's some things in that book that we're not doing, right? And so I think we can be great. And with that said, I know that probably seemed negative if it's not negative. But if you'll remember, I said I would like for us to be number one in the state. With that, I realized that we are not number one, right? And I feel like we can be there. And it's not about being number one for me, it's about the process to get us there. And I think having someone to come in and do an assessment as a part of this interim process would provide some valuable information objectively. So those are my thoughts.
I just wonder if it's fair to ask Dr. Dyer what his opinion is.
I personally would not like to comment. This is a board decision, and I am not a member of your board, so I'm your one employee.
Well, I think you know these people better than anyone else.
I
all four
do
of
know
them.
each of them, but I don't feel like I need to comment on something that really is within your purview to vote on. I don't have a vote, but I appreciate you asking.
So if it's okay, Jody brought up something that I wanted to touch on. She had mentioned the vote for the waiving the policy that an interim would not be a candidate. And I just wanted to express that was part of the reason why I put up Kelly Kaiser as one of the nominees, was that does give us an opportunity to have an internal candidate that is not going to be running or not in consideration for the director position, and that my hope would be that that would clarify that there is no predetermined candidate selected, that would let us have somebody that was internal, that was not somebody that was interested in being a candidate.
I want to also comment on something that Jody said. Of course, this has been the talk of around the school system now for over a week. And everywhere I have gone and talked with teachers, they are very leery of someone from the outside coming in. I just think that we've got to respect what they want and what they say, and I think this will just be more stress added to all the stress that they already have. And so if I just have talked to several teachers about this, and they are very comfortable with either one of the inside candidates.
Well, and to that point, I shared with all of you a letter that I received from a group of teachers that, in my reading of that letter, they would like to have us consider, re-evaluating some of the things that we're asking them to do and looking at things. I think the teachers that I've spoken with have been happy with some of the changes that have happened over the past few years and would like to continue down that road. So with the number of teachers and employees that this school system has, I think we have some on both sides of that. But as I went through and interviewed, I sat down with each of the candidates for an hour, hour and a half, and had coffee and talked. And the interview was very simple. I handed them the letter that I shared with all of you from the group of teachers and said, how do we assess the concerns that are set forth in here, whether they're valid or not? How do we assess them? And how do we make these teachers understand that we're taking their considerations seriously and that we're looking into them? And it was interesting just to have that dialogue with each of those candidates on how they might do that. And so that, through that conversation, it strengthened it. And, you know, talking to the internal candidates, if I can refer to them that way, you know, both of them, they all know the two outside candidates well. And especially Johnny, I think both of the internals have worked with Johnny over the time. You know, there's a feeling across the board from all the candidates that they would be able to work together seamlessly and without issue. So my feeling is we're going to run a great school system during this evaluation period one way or the other, and there's not going to be any real hiccups and no concerns. The question is, what else can we get out of it? Can we get an evaluation? Can we get somebody, do we let this person do it now, or do we hire somebody later on to come in and do an evaluation on the new director when they come in? I just think this is probably the cheapest and quickest way for us to do it, because we're going to have to hire somebody and pay them right now anyways.
But I wonder, Matt, how much can be done within the next, few weeks, few months? How much of what this letter, some of their concerns, how much of that can an outside person come in and do for what this, and remember, this is a group of 20, 23 that out of ever how many teachers we have.
I think, to answer that, I think there's a lot of questions that can be asked, a lot of discussions that can be had, a lot of information that can be gathered. But I would not expect and would not necessarily want an intern to come in and change the policies and the programs that we have. So I think it's an opportunity for them to get this glimmer, and then as they transition the new director into place in 3-4 months, be able to say, let me share with you some of the things that I have learned, some of the strengths, some of the areas that you need to continue to evaluate.
I didn't know we had the opportunity to sit down and interview each one. I would have liked to have done that. It might have given me a little bit more insight about how they felt about things. So that was the smart thing for you to do. But I didn't know that that was a possibility. Did any of the rest of you get to interview anyone?
I talked to.
Yes, I talked to her, and I believe it was sent
Okay.
via a bio with their contact information.
No, I mean to talk to them personally.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. You know, I guess I had another thought. I don't know if it's a good one or not, but I was thinking, you know, schools have changed a great deal since the two that had been directors of schools, you know, have been in education. And things have changed, you know, quite a bit in the last couple of years. I just wonder if the people that are here that have been working with our system might have a better idea of things than people that have not been in the system recently. Just a thought.
Anybody else have any thoughts? Want to make sure we flush it all out.
Could this vote be by written, responses be written rather than audible?
No, it's a public vote. What's your pleasure?
Does the chairman need a motion?
Yes, sir.
I would make a motion for Johnny McDaniel to be the interim director.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
So we have a motion for Johnny McDaniel to be the interim director for Cleveland City Schools, and we have a second. Let's have some discussion. All right, no discussion. All in favor? We're going to take an individual vote, and will not start down there this time, Jody. I'll start right here. How about that? And then we'll come this way. Is that okay? All right. So for me, yes. Matt?
Yes.
Carolyn,
No.
Andy,
Yes.
Peggy,
No.
Krista,
No.
and Jody.
No.
All right, the motion fails. All right, so,
I'd like to make a motion
okay.
that we appoint Kelly Kaiser as interim.
I'll second that.
So we have a motion to appoint Kelly Kaiser, and we have a second.
Was Peggy as a second?
Any discussion? Okay, I will say this as a point of discussion, since I do have the opportunity to do that as well. I do believe that the HR director prior to Dr. Dyer was an interim director that sat in that role. So I think that would be fitting for this. Okay. Anybody else have anything they want to say or questions they want to ask?
Can you say that one more time?
Prior to Dr. Dyer, the interim director was the HR director at that point.
Yes.
All right, so we have a motion. You want to do the roll call? I'll start it out and use the same method, or, yes?
Matt,
No.
Carolyn,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Peggy,
Yes.
Krista,
Yes.
Jody.
Yes.
That passes. So Kelly Kaiser will be our interim director of schools, and we'll get with him and start the process for making that a reality. All right, next on the agenda, we have Ray and Associates, and they're joining us via Google Meet. They're going to talk to us about the hiring process for the director of schools, and we're just going to turn it over to them and have a presentation, and they're going to ask us some questions and interact with us throughout this process. So, David, are you guys ready?
Yes, yes, we are. We'll get going. So, thank you for having us here this evening. Just as we get started, I wanted to share, when I heard about the water bottle things that you're doing in Guatemala, my son is a mechanical engineering student at Arizona State and is currently designing tables and houses to be built out of water bottles in Guatemala. So at some point, there may be some interactions there. So I thought that was kind of fun. As somebody said earlier, this will be a little bit of a working session. There's lots of questions and answers. We'll talk process with you as well, but just so you know, we'll interact. The worst part about being on Google Meets is, I can't see you, so if you need to stop us, be sure and, shout out or whatever. I tell people all the time, I taught middle school for 12 years, so I'm great at being interrupted, and I can fall right back into form, if you will. So hopefully, can everybody see the PowerPoint that I'm sharing?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and I think you have a copy of it in your board agenda, but we'll be walking through that a little bit. First of all, just again, so you know who you are, Minnie, do you want to say hello? I know you're on the line.
Hi, everybody. I think my audio is working.
Awesome. And then I'm David Faltis, and as you see, Molly Swartzoff is the president in our office, and we'll be doing a lot of communicating with you or your staff. And then we have another visitor. Laura is on the line. Laura, do you want to say hello?
Yes. Hi, I'm Laura Iden, and we'll be partnering with Ray and Associates from the Center for Effective School Operations on this project.
And so, as you see, you also, I believe, received a PDF of topics for discussion, things that we're going to cover. So we'll try to go through this as quickly as possible, but there are just some things that we'll need to, that'll help us kind of get started on this. The first thing that we need to, Chair Tucker, I have your name in there as the board contact. Who should we contact as far as in-house, the district staff, if you can let us know that?
Russell Dyer.
Russell Dyer.
No, I'm just kidding.
That could be awkward.
All right,
Russell's waving us off. So,
Kelly Kaiser would probably be the appropriate person.
okay. Because there'll be, you know, obviously things that we'll need to get to you guys for agendas and that sort of thing. So Kelly Kaiser.
And can you also copy Andrea McMacken on that as well?
Andrea, can you say her last name?
McMacken. She's the one that is copying on previous emails, but we could send you her information.
Okay, perfect. And that way, again, if we need to coordinate, communicate, you'll kind of know where we're going from there. Next thing we need to talk about is just candidate travel reimbursement. One thing we talked about in our presentation with you guys is whether or not you wanted to consider doing as much as possible through Zoom. Some board districts are doing first-round interviews through Zoom. It does save some expenses. You know, the negative is you're on Zoom or Google Meets. Do you have thoughts on that?
What's your pleasure?
Can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
When you say first-round interviews,
Yes.
what are we talking, what number is, can you kind
Sure.
of break down first versus
Absolutely.
follow-up?
Absolutely. Typically, what will happen is Minnie or myself will bring to you 10 or 12 applicants that have made it through your filter. They fit your profile, and then we'll work with you to kind of narrow that down to 5, 6, or 7. Generally speaking, if you interview more than that, it's kind of hard to keep them all separate, if you will. And so we typically recommend that first round of interviews being 5 or 6. It seems like 6 is kind of fairly common. And then in the second round, depending on how they all score out, most people bring back at least 2 for a second round of interviews. A lot of people bring back 3, and those we would always recommend to be in person. But the first ones could be via Zoom or Google Meets if you like, or you could ask people to travel to you and have a face-to-face interview.
So what's your thoughts, board members?
I would be comfortable with the first round being Zoom or Google Meets. And I like that concept of the 2 or 3 second round being in person.
I agree. Anybody opposed to that? All right, so the first round will be in Google Meet or Zoom or whatever platform we decide.
Okay. And then will you be reimbursing for travel for second round interviews? Those are your finalists, your 2 or 3 that would be coming to you. Most districts do, but I still have to ask that question.
I would think so, with some limitation on it.
Yes.
Sure.
I agree.
Okay.
Can we tell you the exact number of what we want, 2 or 3?
Tonight?
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say it can change if you go through that first round of interviews and you're really stuck between 2 or 3.
Yes.
But you're welcome to make that decision tonight.
Yeah, as long as we can change it later. I mean, it's not.
Sure,
it's not-
absolutely. Absolutely. Okay?
we can
And then
have a plan.
some districts invite spouses or partners to that second round interviews just because you're going to be partnering with this director for a while. That's, again, completely up to you. I would say that's maybe 50-50 right now. And I guess the question is, would you be reimbursing? Some candidates may decide to bring their spouse or partner regardless, but that's just a question for you.
I don't know that the reimbursement would be that much more. I mean, in theory, they would have the same hotel room. We might have additional meals, but I think it would be beneficial if we want somebody that's going to be choosing to live here and hopefully for a long time. It would be nice to get that
Right, yeah.
other parties' input.
Anybody opposed to that opinion? All right, I think we're all in agreement that spouses will be invited
Okay.
and reimbursed
Okay?
within some kind
Yes.
of constraints. And
Absolutely.
if you don't mind, if you can kind of send us what that would be.
Sure.
Okay. Oh, it's right there on the
Absolutely.
screen.
Yeah, and that was the next thing I was going to touch on is, and you can imagine if you're going to a job interview, typically airfare, if they're coming from outside of your region, it could be mileage, if they're driving out from Johnson City, meals, hotel, if you're flying in, do you do a rental car, do you do Uber? and we work with them to make sure, I mean, we obviously understand your deal with taxpayer dollars, and we can work with them and coordinate with your district staff people as well. So, and if there are district per diem rates, maybe you don't want to reimburse for meals, but you have a travel policy that says we reimburse $36 a day, for staff that are in places. We can work on that with your staff. And there's a note there at the bottom. Typically, as candidates purchase travel or buy meals, whatever, we'll ask them to get those receipts to Molly, and she will get those over to your district staff person as soon as possible. And then we'll talk timeline a little bit, because we do need to make some decisions on timelines. You've seen this in the proposal. You hopefully had a chance to think about it a little bit. Obviously, we're in stage 1 right now, where we're talking about the process. We're going to talk a little bit about stakeholders and that sort of things. And then as we move to stage 2, we'll be with stakeholders, and you kind of see those steps. And I've kind of broken those down a little more. And so we are in stage 1 right now, and this is the beginning of that. This is part of our planning meeting. And then as soon as we finish with this, I'll get this information to Molly. She'll coordinate with your district staff, and we'll talk about putting together flyers, job descriptions, the online application form, all those sorts of things. And so this will all start to take place relatively quickly. Hopefully by the end of the week, we'll be getting some information out to our associates, our national network, to remind people, of these timelines. So this is, I don't know if there's a lot of decision to be made here in stage 1, but just, kind of so you see that. As we move into stage 2, that's when we start putting out an online survey link, and that will help us develop a profile. That survey link will go to whoever we'll get it out however you see fit, to your stakeholders. It could be, you may shoot it community-wide, it may go to your students, staff, as many people as we can, so that you get all the information back that we can. And we typically have that available for about 14 days. Some people will post that on their website. Some districts, depending on kind of what you have going on, will email that out to individual email addresses that you may have on file. You may not get everyone that way, but if it's just on your website, you run the risk of somebody from, Florida getting on there and taking the survey. But we try to work it as best we can there. Then we'll start working on constituent stakeholder group meetings, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. And you kind of see, we'll develop this promotional flyer, and we'll need to finalize that flyer. And there's another section that we'll talk about that in a second. But on or about the 26th, we'll need to finalize that profile and that job description, so that we can get that out regionally and nationally. And here's where you see we get the stage 3, get the word out. And then the job posting itself typically is about 30 days. We think that's enough time. You're in, as we discussed a couple of weeks ago, you're in a good spot for people who are out looking for jobs. So we think 30 days is appropriate. But again, if you or staff say, oh, we've got some things going on that's going to require us to move it a week or two, we can work on that. And then we'll help you with interview questions, help you with interview procedures with you guys. Your HR department obviously will have some input. You may ask if you have a staff attorney or an attorney that you do work with, they may want to review questions, that sort of thing. But we can kind of help you with that. And so we'd be looking at interviewing top candidates, which would be those 5, 6, or 7 on kind of that week of the 13th. So just kind of look at your schedules. If there's something strange going on the week of that 13th, we can certainly, we need to adjust it now, I guess, if you will. And then.
Hey, David.
Yes, sir.
For the comment regarding the week of the 13th, is that
yes.
the week ending, or is it the following? Because the 13th is a Saturday.
That's a great question. They should have caught that on the flyer. That really should have been, I think that's going to be the week following. But let me jump ahead. Yeah, that should be the week. So I would say the 15th to the 19th. I'll make that clarification. I'm sorry?
Is that that's the first round?
That'd be the first round interviews, yes.
When you get down to maybe 1 or 2 candidates, Do you ever have school systems that go to where they are? Because we did that with Dr. Dyer. We went to his school system.
You know, we haven't lately, but we have done that before. And as when I was superintendent, typically they would go to the communities. And on the next slide, now we'll have kind of 10 days between the end of that week of first round interviews and when you would begin interviewing the second round. So there's some time in there if you decide that you want to do that. Another question that we would have is when we're looking at interviews, do you foresee that you would want them to interview in public or in groups or forums, either in first round, second round? Again, some do, some don't. I'm working with a district right now that their second round interviews, they are having a public forum where those candidates are presenting to, the community on some component of your strategic plan. Or you may count on interviewing them yourselves, but that's one thing to consider.
Can I ask, do you remember, did you interview here with a public forum or?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't really an interview per se, but we had lunch with business folks from the chamber. We had another event with parents. I had a group with students. It was a full, probably 12 or 13 hour full interview that ended with the public board meeting.
Where you were interviewed by
The formal
board?
interview,
Okay.
yeah, by the board.
So it's more of a presentation to
There-
the public?
No, it was questions, Q&A from business officials, public, at those different things.
Is that something that we could do through you guys? Would you guys coordinate that day of interview kind of thing?
Yes, and in another district that I'm working with, we're actually physically there, bringing the candidates, to campuses to meet with staff. They're visiting, as your director said, with community groups. They added that component of, hey, we want to see you present some piece of our strategic plan, but that's really, that's up to you. But yeah, we can help with all those things. And so they're doing, in their second round, they have 2 finalists. And so they're allowing each of them to spend time in the community, meeting with different people, and then they're going into their final interview that evening, very similar to what you did last time.
What's your pleasure?
I like that structure of having the day-long meeting with different constituent groups and then ending with the board interviewing. I'm assuming board members can attend some of those community interviews as well?
Yes.
I think it's beneficial for us to have the input, from the community.
Okay. And we can work on the logistics of that with you.
Anybody opposed to that idea? We're all in agreement.
Okay. And then our goal would be, on or about that week of the 29th, depending on your schedules, when you would be naming your, final candidate. So, and then there's some other dates, some other to be decided dates there. So that'd be the goal. Any questions about that right now? So we talked a little bit about building the profile. Some of that will begin immediately. And there's a schedule in here. Here over the next week or so, either Minnie, myself, or Molly will be contacting each of you and asking you some questions as we start to build this profile. But then that survey that we talked about, this 31 characteristics survey, we'll start talking with your district staff on how to get that out and how broad a net you want to cast. But we'll start putting together board surveys, and I can show you. It's a pretty simple Survey Monkey, if you will. They would basically will personalize it with your logo, and then as far as your name will be here. It'll be a confidential survey, but this way we can know that everybody's taken the survey. And then it's just a forced survey. There are 31 leadership qualities, and we ask you to select 10 of those that you believe are most important. And we'll ask that of you. We will also, it's a same survey with your community. And again, we'll ask some demographics so that you can see, okay, what do our teacher groups think? What our administrative staff thinks? What about our parents? Some people add in elected officials, depending on, your community, but it's a very similar, it's the exact same survey. So there's 31 leadership characteristics or qualities there that we're looking for. The question I would have, do we need that survey in additional languages?
Yes.
And then if so, what languages?
I would think so. Can we get that to you later?
Yes, absolutely.
We'll send that
Absolutely.
to Dr. Dyer.
Okay.
Get that.
Okay. Sorry,
So
making-
just
making
for
a-
clarification, when you're talking about the board survey, that's a survey, but that's in addition to the meeting that you're going to have with each board member? Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yes, and so the phone calls, there are, 8 or 9 questions that we go through. And some of it is as we build out the profile for candidates, we're going to ask you, what are some great things about your school? What are some great things about living in your community? Some things that we'll be able to share with candidates as we, look for people that are interested in coming to your area. That survey will be very similar to what we will do with the stakeholder survey, but there'll be some questions that'll be a little more pointed to you, as far as internal candidates and the nature of candidates you're looking for. But the questions, generally speaking, the questions will be the same, whether we're asking the board or we're asking your stakeholder groups. And then we'll get this sample schedule. You see, this is with the board. And so, I'll have 2 or 3 or 4 names. Many will have 2 or 3 or 4 names, but we'll start scheduling those here in the next few days. And so typically that takes anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes, depending on how talkative you are and probably even how talkative we are. But that'll be kind of where we kick off that profile building process. The next thing that we do and this is all part of that stakeholder group. Again, we're going to ask people to do the 31 quality survey. I also meant to show you, there's also a section at the end of the survey where people can make comments. And depending on your community, you could get 50 comments, you might get 500 comments. And we'll try to clump those as best we can if there's a ton of comments, that are, maybe about leadership or living in the community or, whatever they happen to be. But you'll have access to all that information. And then we'll start putting together these stakeholder groups. And this is just a sample of one that we used in another district. And some of these can be done virtually. Some of them probably need somebody there. And it could be Minnie, who's in Durham, that comes out, or it could be she and I that both come out. And we'll schedule these over a day or two, depending on how many stakeholders you want to visit with. And generally speaking, we'll be working with, and this is another sample, we'll be working with your district staff, but be thinking about those stakeholder groups that you would typically ask, whether it's obviously your parents, your ministerial alliance, if you have a pastor's organization in town, or the chamber or Rotary, whoever you want to get that specific feedback and a stakeholder group, let us know, and then we can start scheduling those over a couple of days. I think it's at the end of March, or middle of March, I think. But so we'll be coordinating with your district staff. But again, if you're changing curriculum or changing the calendar and you're surveying groups, you kind of know who these people are, but we can also give you, some other ideas as well. Okay. Then,
I have a question.
yes, absolutely.
Do you have sample surveys, or do you use a different survey for each system?
It's, we put out that 31 qualities survey for every search that we do, and those are research-based leadership qualities. Then the 7 or 8 questions, we can give those to you in advance, or you'll hear them when we do your interview. Those are the same questions that we're going to be asking people in those stakeholder groups.
Yeah, I'd like to see what the questions are, that you ask, and see what's most pertinent, for our system, perhaps.
Sure. I'm going to make it a note. If I don't write it down, I'll be in trouble. All right, and obviously, we feel very strongly about that staff and community support. What you'll see with that 31 qualities survey, it basically comes to, it's a PDF, but it's an Excel spreadsheet basically. That you could say, okay, here's what the board believes are the top 10 qualities, but you might find out that our community thinks something a little different. Our staff may think something a little different, and obviously students sometimes can think things drastically different. And then as we build that profile, we'll decide which 10 of those, or 10 or 11 of those, are the qualities that you want to build that profile around. And then the next thing that we'd be putting together is a promotional flyer. Some districts do videos, and we can do those. Sometimes you have staff, that really likes to do those because you can have branded materials. But we'll work with you guys. And have we already talked about the contact person for the flyer or the video, or is there someone else we need to be communicating with?
Carolyn Corrigan, we'll send you her info.
Carolyn Corrigan?
Yes, and I pronounced her name
Okay.
right tonight.
You probably pronounced it right. We'll have to check my spelling, so. Okay. And do you know, and you may be answering for another staff member, will you guys want to do your own flyer? Would you prefer us do it, or we can get one started and get it over? It's whatever you think is best.
Can we have you work with Carolyn on that?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Anybody opposed
Happy
to
to do
that?
so.
Yeah, I think since they have some expertise in that, we might want to lean on them to do that, working with Caroline.
Yes. Okay, absolutely. I think that works. And then we have a sample application, if you will. And at some point, and I know that it's probably difficult to do this over Zoom, but we probably need to kind of get this approved, so that we can post that application. Again, we can work with your HR department. This is a pretty, I would say, nearly boilerplate application that we use with dozens of schools every year. But again, we can work with HR. Now, and I want to be clear. We are director of schools, not superintendent. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then a couple of, yes, sir.
No, I was just saying I had to think it through there for a second.
Yeah. Okay, and then there are a couple of questions in here that you just kind of need to wrap your head around.
Hey, David, before you move into that, quick question for you. Is what we see on the screen here a representation of our work, our information?
Yes, this should be Cleveland City Schools.
Okay.
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure.
Yes, sorry about that. And this section is fairly important because we can leave these questions on, or if you say, you know what, David, we're not interested, we can take some of these things off. We have a question in here about a director of schools or superintendent license for the position in Tennessee. And those are things that, do you want to require somebody to either have the license or be eligible for that license? Does that make sense?
I think what we probably should do is just get you our policy.
Okay,
And then
perfect.
you can use that as a point of reference.
Okay.
As the qualifications there.
Okay, because the other thing is if you have someone from out of state who may be certified in Illinois, would you be willing to work with them as they get that certification? Obviously, it limits your search if you say no, but,
I think
I just want to make sure.
everyone's nodding their head yes here.
Okay.
I think the state has minimal certifications, right? I mean, it's not a state-specific issue. We had that discussion earlier, so I don't suspect that'll be a problem, but.
Okay, great. All right. And then advertising options. We talked to you before. Obviously, there are some free sites that we think are great and that we need to do. The Tennessee School Board Association, the Association of School Administrators, typically if the district posts to those, they're free of charge because you're already members of those associations. And so, again, as we get this application fleshed out, the profile or flyer, whatever, we can work with your staff on that. I'm just going to show you, there's 2 pages of other advertising options that you may want to consider. This first page are some that we recommend if you're interested, but we're not pushing you. We don't mark these up. But these are, and you might talk to Dr. Dyer, your HR department. We believe these are pretty good ones that get a lot of eyeballs to look at them. The AASA Job Bulletin, I think, is a really, really good one. There's, $409 it runs for 30 days, $649 for 60 days. They do a job flash package, which just means they email it to everyone on their email list or in their database, and that's $5.99. I think that's a really good one. AASA is considered to be kind of the one, if you will. Education Week, the newspaper and website, that one's $4.95. Again, I don't know about your current director. For me, I looked through Education Week, but I didn't run to it and open it up every time it came in the mail. So there's also a couple others. National Alliance of Black School Educators is $250. And then ALAS, Association of Latino Administrators, is super.
Yep, froze up.
You there?
So we think those are good ones.
Hey, David,
Yes.
you froze up for a second. You may have to
Oh,
repeat
okay.
the last part.
All right. Where did I leave off?
The last Association of Latino.
Okay. Yes, the last one is the Association of Latino Administrators and Superintendents, ALAS, and it's $250. And so these four, I guess, we recommend. But again, those would be additional to our contracted fee. And so if you want to consider those, or you'd like to do those, or you want to talk to your staff, that's okay, but we'll need to know that fairly quickly.
When do you need to know that?
Sir?
When do you need to know that?
I would say by the end of the week, we probably should know that. And then other optional advertising, and again, you may look at your administrators in the room and they may be shaking their heads. These are just some other venues where you can get the word out. School Leadership 2.0 is $149 for 30 days. The American Association of School Personnel Administrators, it's a little different organization. It's $250. District Administration, their website, is $295 for 30 days. IamDiversity.com, Career Builder, Diverse, Inside Higher Ed, those kind of things. Those will be some, again, if your team knows that, oh man, that's one we really pay attention to, great. I would just say if we would recommend, I would probably start out at AASA and then maybe hit NABC and ALAS. Education Week to me would be one of my lower recommendations. But again, if you say, David, we're not interested in those, that's fine. We just want to share those with you, if that makes sense.
So, David, what do most of your clients select? Which packages? Or which customers?
I've seen a lot of them that go with the job flash package at AASA because that's proactively being sent out to 5,000 or 6,000 superintendents, and then it kind of goes back and forth on whether they go with the NABC, National Alliance of Black School Educators, or ALAS, just depending on your thoughts. Education Week, again, to me is it would definitely be fourth on this list. On the next list, I just don't know. I mean, I know a lot of people are starting to look at Career Builder now, or Indeed, some of those, but I still tend to lean to these. I think most people that are looking for jobs, or most administrators, these are kind of high on their desktop, if you will.
Okay.
I just want to butt in here and say that if you do AASA, you're probably going to catch those candidates that would be in NABC, those candidates that would get ALAS right there. So the opportunity, if your budget does not allow to all of them, then AASA would certainly be, with Job Flash, would certainly be the most recommended.
Great.
For money.
Matt, did you have a question?
I was pointing that she was raising her hand.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have a couple of questions here, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So in the suggested regional one, I'm seeing like the Tennessee School Board Association. I know I may be getting my acronym wrong. Is TASS, T-A-S-S, is that the Tennessee Association for School?
It is.
Okay, I always thought that was an O when you said
Yeah.
TASS, so that's what I was just checking.
Yes.
Which do you find more?
and I was- I'm sorry. I
Do you,
interrupted
do
you.
you find 30 days of advertising to be adequate versus 60 in those cases, or?
You know, because we're doing a 30-day posting, if we can time that with that, yes, that's adequate. The only caveat is, okay, what if we only got 8 applicants, you know, in the first 30 days? But the difference in money is not a lot, but I think most people tend to do the 30 days. I mean, many, is that what you're seeing?
I'm seeing that people who are actually looking are looking for that 30 days. You can go in 30 days, and I think most districts will have really viable candidates in 30 days.
Yeah, I think so too.
So thinking about these 4 here, and if we obviously went with AASA, in one of our previous meetings, we said that we wanted to make sure that we had a diverse candidate pool. And so as a result of that, would we still need to do some of the others? Or I think, Minnie, you kind of alluded to that a little bit. Can you talk about that a little bit more?
Well, let me just say this. Good superintendents belong to AASA. And I would think that that would cover that range of diversity that we might also seek. And then, of course, you've got your regional, your Tennessee State Association, and I can't remember the other ones, David, that could also bring you National Association of School Superintendents. I think you'll get that. And of course, with Ray and Associates, you're gonna get really lots of great candidates.
Do you all have a website that advertises the jobs available?
Yes, we do, and we will also, once we get the profile developed and a flyer and an application, we'll send that out to a couple of thousand registered users on our site as well. And then we'll get that to our associates across the country. We have 30 or 35 associates, and they'll start talking to people in their areas and regions and their associations.
So what you're talking about is just something additional to what you all do, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. And so really, if you had to kind of twist my arm, I would say the one I would consider is the $5.99 job flash package, because with AASA, because again, people are looking at AASA, but then they get contacted and notified, hey, here's a position available. There'll be information about your community, about the job, about the deadline, that sort of thing.
And of course, you also know people that are in, so you're going to tell them to do that,
Yes.
to apply.
Does anybody want to?
Do we need to make a decision on that today?
Honestly, it's completely up to you. I mean, the sooner the better, but again, as I said before, I think by the end of the week, as we're communicating with your staff, if you'll just let staff know, that's fine.
I think, let's go ahead and make a decision so we have marching orders.
If I understand the math right, or maybe I don't, but if we do the job flash package, and I'm sorry that I don't have it on my screen, so I'm having a hard time seeing it, but
Sure.
that is in addition to the ASA, or is that inclusive of the AASA?
That's part of AASA's service, and they would post it for 30 days, but they would also proactively email anybody who's a registered user in their system.
So if we did the job flash package, would we get the 30-day listing? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
And it's a single $5.99 price tag?
That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah, I think that I would lean toward what he's recommending, adding maybe the AASA $5.99. I think that covers anything that isn't going to be hit with the previous slide through the regional postings.
I agree with that.
Okay, can we go ahead and entertain a motion real quick for this, so that we can, since we're spending.
I'm sorry, yeah. I move that we add on the recommended national AASA job flash package for $5.99.
I second that.
So we have a motion to add the job flash package to the search. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, passed. So there you have it. We'll be adding the job flash package. David?
Okay, and I think that's, I think that's a great choice. I think that's a great choice. Here's just and I think we can get through some of these things. These are just questions that we've discussed about specific state requirements. I think we're going to get your policy and take a look at that. Also, you're also willing to let somebody work towards getting their certification. Any preferred qualities that the board would like. This will also be one of the questions we ask you in our phone conversation, so you don't have to answer these, but just be thinking about, would we prefer somebody be bilingual? Would we require them to have a doctorate, which means if you require it, then if they don't have it, they're out. But just be thinking about, are there additional qualities that this board you would like to add in there? And we'll ask you that question when we do our phone conversation, but just, kind of putting that out there. And then I think you've already told us, question number 4, the contact or send invoices. Do I have that information?
You can just send that to Kelly Kaiser as well, and he'll distribute it to the appropriate person.
Okay, let me make a quick note, sorry. Okay, the next thing is salary discussion. And, because we'll need a salary when it becomes time to post. Some states have a pretty good database, if you will, that we can go find and give you kind of comparable salaries in your area. Your staff probably knows kind of what those comparable salaries are. What we see a lot of times is that a good starting point is kind of basically what you're paying plus 3 to 5%, considering the person's going to be reporting to you, at the end of this year or fiscal year. But do you have thoughts on salary? Do you want to discuss that and get back with us? But we'll need that for the posting.
What's your pleasure?
So is that the extent of what you would recommend in terms of helping us to come up with a projected salary? Is the starting point plus 3 to 5%? Or is that, and if we want comparable school systems of our size, we would need to do some investigating to find those?
Well, and we can do some investigating as well. Tennessee doesn't put out that information like some other states do, and that's okay. We'll just need to do some digging. But just a good average starting place is kind of about what you're paying. And then, at some point you'll need to look at what benefits you're providing your current director and see, are those things that you want to continue, or are they not? But I can do as much surveying as I can from our end, or we can coordinate with your HR department. But really, before we finalize that flyer, we'll need to come up with either a salary or a range, a salary range for that job posting.
I think TSBA sent us some information.
Yes.
on that.
It was today. But if we remember, during the TSBA presentation, Tammy did give us a number to make sure we stay competitive.
And I think she sent us what they were paying. Someone sent us what's being paid across the state, or at least in the last several searches. And it may be helpful to send that information to them and them come back with a recommended range.
Sure. Yeah, we can look at that.
Okay, so then we'll have to have a special call meeting for that.
Yep. Okay. I did have one other question. I know we talked about the 31 qualities, the online survey. Would you like for us to deliver that to you guys via Zoom, or would you want one of us there in person? We've done it both ways. I've done it most recently via Zoom because it saves people a little bit of money, but we're more than willing to come to you. But I wanted to ask you that question.
Can you tell us a little bit about what that would look like? Are you going to be
Sure.
giving us a PowerPoint
Sure.
and walking us through that, or what would that entail?
It'll be very similar to what we're doing tonight, and we would share with you, here's what we think are your top 10 qualities. And if you say, I want to see what our students said, I want to see what our elected officials said, you kind of work through that. So, if it's a live spreadsheet, it can be a little difficult via Zoom, but it can be done. And then it saves you travel. But it really is your pleasure.
When is that meeting on our timeline? How?
Let me go back and take a look. It would be, it's going to be here before February 23rd. Well, let's see. Yeah, because we'll get that survey link. We'll go out on the 9th. It'll be live for a couple of weeks, till the 23rd, and then we'll, if it's not the 23rd, it'll be kind of that week or sometime around there that we'll get with you to go through that, because that'll help us develop that flyer. Here are the top 10 qualities we're looking for in our next superintendent.
What is the estimate of the travel cost for you to come here to Tennessee?
If I'm flying out from Dallas, I looked at flying into Chattanooga, it's $450, $500 for a flight, rental car, $60 or $80, and then whatever hotel room is. I don't need a lot. Sometimes you feed at board meetings, so that saves you a little bit. Minnie, I don't know if you're at a place where you would drive up or if you would fly.
I would fly, but
Okay.
I haven't checked on flight or anything like that. From Raleigh, Durham.
Yeah. And we can do it either way.
How long does that meeting normally last?
I did one last week that went several hours. I mean, 2.5, 3 hours, but I wouldn't compare your board to them. I've seen your board videos. You guys seem to all be rowing in the same direction. So it was a little bit contentious for other reasons. So I would guess an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes tops.
If it's a short meeting, I'm fine with the Zoom. If it's going to be several hours, I think the longer it is, the more difficult
agree.
it's going to be to stay on point.
Yep. It can be tough. It can be tough. Let's think about that. We can decide. I mean, we can still, like I said, I'll go out and look for some specific dates and flights and let Kelly know kind of what we're talking about. I don't know that it's worth spending $1,200 or $1,500 to have somebody come out, but if I can find a good flight and get out there and back for $600 or $700, it might be some value.
So just for clarification, because we do have group stakeholders, representatives on the screen, which meeting are you talking about visiting?
This would be where we wrap up the 31 qualities survey. That survey should close on or about the 23rd of February. And then we would need to sit down with you and go through, here are the results of that survey. Here's what the people who took the survey said about what they believe is their top 10 qualities. And then we spend time rolling that into a promotional flyer, or just, discussing that and create your promotional flyer with it. It really should be an hour and 30-minute meeting at the most.
I say let's do that online and then save the travel for when they come
Okay.
and meet with the groups.
Okay. I think that's a good decision. I think we can make that happen.
Well, hold on for a second. Everybody good with that?
Yes.
Anybody opposed? Okay, that's what we'll do.
Okay, perfect. Let me see. That's it, unless you have questions or thoughts for us, or Minnie, if I missed something, you're welcome to chime in.
You didn't miss anything, David. I just commend the board for being the kind of board that, for right now at least, that we would say, this is a board that we don't always agree, but we are agreeable. And that's a task that many boards do not have. You are cordial, you are thoughtful, you are respectful to each other, and it's just a pleasure. It's a pleasure to see them.
Yep.
Pleasure.
All right, any other comments or questions, board members?
I'm just wondering if at some point, whether we or they might be able to present that timeline in a calendar format, kind of to help us visualize what happens on what days. Does that make sense, to see what's overlapping and stuff?
Sure. Let me make a note of that. And so you want kind of a 2 or 3 month calendar with those blocks out?
Yeah, just to help.
Sure.
I'm a visual person, and it helps me
I'm
to
with
kind of visualize the how that's all kind of mapping out.
Sure. Let me see what I can get done, and I'll get that to your staff as soon as we can.
Thank you.
And now that you have the calendar, we need to make sure that your calendars are. that they're not, well, my family and I plan to go on a vacation or something. So we'd like to make sure that you're going to be present so your voice is resonated and heard during that time. This is your service, so you can adjust it.
Anything else? All right, we do appreciate you guys taking time out to meet with us tonight.
Awesome.
Look forward to working with you as we get the next superstar to be our
That's right.
director of schools.
Fantastic. Thank you for the time. We appreciate it, and let us know if we need anything between now and the next time we chat.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Please
Have a good
tell
evening.
children that new Star Spangled Banner was great.
Thank you. All right. Excuse me. Next on the agenda, we have a mid-year update from the folks at BCPEF, and the president's name is Chris Anziano.
All right. Good evening, everybody. My name is Chris Anziano, and I have the honor of serving as the president of the executive committee of the Bradley Cleveland Public Education Foundation. With me tonight is our vice president as well, Lori McNulty, and Lynn Vols, our executive director. In addition, there's a number of members of the lead fellows in the room, as well as some of our facilitators and coordinators associated with that program, and Lynn's going to provide you with a little more detail in her part of this presentation. I wanted to start just by saying thank you. I know it's a busy time. I know there's a lot going on, and I appreciate you giving us a chance to come in and kind of brag a little bit and provide an update on some of the things that are going on that's helping to drive a common mission of excellence in public education. If you could go to the next slide for me. Thank you. This slide, you can see it's an important year as we're celebrating 20 years of investment in our community and in our programs that we believe are driving a lifetime of impact. So the mission over these 20 years is, as you can see, to raise our community awareness, gain financial support, and enhance teaching and learning. The impact of that has been impressive over this time frame, with over $10 million of private funding going into public education, enabling over 16,000 students and 1,200 teachers to pursue innovation in the classroom. And strategic and collaborative partnerships are key to that effort, one such example being between our organizations today. So excited about the 20 years and excited about the current activities going on with BCPEF and our school systems. And I'm going to turn it over to Lynn to give some more details of that.
Thank you, Chris, and also thank you again for letting us be here. When I took this job in '09, I asked one of the Cleveland City board members, actually, before I took it, what her position was on the Public Education Foundation, what she thought about it. And she said, I don't know, we never hear anything about it. And so we said at that point, well, that isn't going to continue. And so, as you know, annually we get together with a joint board in our offices, and then we give you a mid-year update just to kind of keep you apprised of what's going on. We're going to be brief tonight because every one of you knows us well, and you've already been here for a long time. So we welcome questions at the end of this presentation, but know that I'm going to be really succinct and brief. Thank you for that slide. We are in the business of providing private dollars for public education, supporting strategic programs and projects. Those are based on collaborative work with educators, with boards of ed, with directors of the schools, of course, and basically, I guess you'll see 8 little boxes up there, and I'm going to be very brief, but these are currently in process. The LEAD Fellowship, I'm going to elaborate on that a little bit. Teacher grants, they've been going on forever, and I'll elaborate on those a little bit too. Telemedicine is a program that serves both our systems very well. Teacher awards, we manage about 7 scholarships which are post-secondary, and they were established before me, and primarily have relationships with educators and their families. We have increased grant fundings, large grant fundings. Megan Ellison, who is here tonight, is a wonderful researcher, and her addition to the staff has made us more effective in funding major projects through major grantors, and we're glad for that. This year, actually $139,000 already in major grants have come through BCPF. Targeted professional development, we're increasing funding for that, primarily because of the strategic collaboration that's been going on. And we see great impact from certain professional development that could not be supported by the two systems. And so we're grateful to have the opportunity to do that as well. Total year-to-date support is $395,000. On this slide, it says $375,000, but a late-breaking funder allowed us to go to $395,000. And tomorrow, we'll close January, so there probably is another $50,000 in there, but I can't give you that exact number today. But that's not a bad number. Are we satisfied? No. We want to be able to fund more innovative education, but we depend on the two systems to come to us with projects and programs that enable us to go to donors and say, here is a great opportunity, to go to grantors and say, this fits your mission. So that collaboration is absolutely critical. Next slide, please. The LEAD program. We worked with PEF Chattanooga, sending fellows to their program from 2015 to 2021, and we had two or three slots each year, so we sent about 18 fellows through that program. Well, when that program stopped existing, Dr. Dyer and Dr. Cash came to us and said, we have to continue to develop leadership within our two systems. And so we started the leadership program, the pilot program last year, as you know, and 14 fellows went through that program. The fellows that are here tonight, 12 fellows in this year-long program this year. They represent 10 schools, and they're a very engaged group. We've enjoyed having these fellows around. They're very conversant, very verbal, which is a good base from which, of course, to develop leadership skills. Let me mention funding. CS Foundation and the Tucker Foundation have funded both these years. The CS Foundation has confirmed funding for the next 3 years as well. So they will have funded us for 5 years. The Tucker Foundation is very eager to see this continue, and so that's been really encouraging to us.
Could we have the lead fellows just stand for a second, just to be,
We
so the
could.
board knows who they are? They probably are ready to stand anyway, so.
Facilitators Terry Murray and Debbie Torres are here as well. And as I mentioned, we have a staff administrator of the program, and last year it was Jane Littlejohn, and this year it's Megan Ellison, and she is doing a superb job. Next slide, please. I was going to show you this because not only are they an engaged group, they're very good-looking too, wouldn't you agree? This was at the kickoff retreat that we had on Lookout Mountain, and it was a really good introductory session, primarily because Dr. Dyer spoke at it. Isn't that right?
Of course, that's what it's all about.
That's right. Next slide, please. I'm going to talk a little bit about a couple of programs. Teacher grants. Originally, teacher grants were started in Cleveland City Schools by Margot Fitzgerald. Some of you may have been around and remember that, but in 2009, when I took over, this organization was already in existence, and so I had some help in evaluating the teacher grant process. And Debbie Torres was my primary educator, primary help from an educator, and she said to me, and I often tell this story, she said, "You need a rubric." Well, fortunately, I knew the word, and so she helped develop one. We had educators then who scored grant proposals as they came in, and it became a much better process. At that point, teacher grants were $1,000 only. Well, in 2015 and 16, we added team grants, and they have a limit of $5,000. And what we have seen is because teachers are planning together, the impact is much better and much greater. We've had team grants that have crossed systems. We have multiple schools that get together for applications for team grants, and it has been really encouraging to see that process grow. This year, we awarded, just a minute, we awarded, I think, 16 grants. And we had a lot more that were submitted. And so we have a plan, hopefully, to increase the budget for this as we go forward. We gave out $61,000 or $62,000 in teacher grants this year, and I think there was about $115,000 in proposals. And we gave them, of course, we awarded them based on their scores, and it was a good process, but there were some really good grants that were not awarded. And so we're working to increase funding for that as well. Next slide, please. Telemedicine. This program has been going on for 9 years, and it is remarkable what it has done for both students and staff. We have a partnership with United Way. The Health Endowment Fund has been a tremendous partner. We could not do it without them. And a couple years ago, Ocoee Pediatrics joined as a partner as well. And since they have been our partner, we have doubled the number of telemedicine visits, say that 3 times, this year. And so we are very, very pleased with that partnership as well. The Board of Eds support nurses in every single school, and we could not do it without that support. This, as I said, is a tremendous resource, and we're very grateful for it. Many of our students have no medical home. The parents are working hourly jobs and can't take off, and so it has been, in fact, in some cases, a lifesaver for students with chronic illnesses. So we're very grateful to support that program. We're about to submit a proposal to United Way for this next academic year, and they've been great partners, and we're very hopeful that they will continue in that regard. Next slide, please. Well, this is just a fun program. Jordy and Key Waller have a billboard company, and they give us periodically 3 billboards, always 1, often 3, and we have art submitted from students from every school almost, and put them on billboards, and parents and students sit in parking lots and watch the billboard cycle because it's so exciting to see their names and their schools and their artwork. But these 2 pieces in particular are remarkable, and I am constantly amazed at the art that's coming from students. These are elementary students. You know, I can't draw anything, and so I have particularly I am particularly impressed with what comes across our desk, but we love to reinforce that the art programs in our schools and to demonstrate to the public, really, what our students can do and what our art teachers are doing. Next billboard, please. In summary, aren't you glad to hear that word? In summary, you know what our mission is, and we cannot possibly accomplish our mission without the strategic collaboration and the tremendous system leadership. And that also includes Board of Eds as well. Advocacy, I just want to mention something. We put out our first journal this year, and I left a copy for you. The second one will be coming out with gifts, grants, and gratitude in May. And when you come to that annual luncheon, they'll be at a place for each of you at the luncheon. I would like to say also that our donor relationships are relational rather than transactional. And if you think about that, donors give, number one, because they're asked, and number two, because of who asks them. And so we are very deliberate in telling our donors thank you and the impact that their dollars have. I was asked a few years ago in a survey, how do you see your work leading a nonprofit? It was a survey of a variety of nonprofits, but they said, how do you see your work leading a nonprofit supporting and enhancing the community? Well, they asked the right person, because I am passionate about the fact that great public education is, without question, foundational to great communities, without question. If we want safer, healthier, and more prosperous communities, we must regard our local public education systems as critical to that objective. That's what I wrote to them. There is no more sound investment than in public education. So to have great public education, you have to have visionary leadership, and we certainly have that in our two systems, for which I am very grateful. I get to work with these people. We have a board executive committee that is immeasurably committed to great public education, and they lead the donor pool. They all give at the visionary level, and I think that is remarkable. To fulfill our mission, we all strive, do we not, to provide the infrastructure, the mechanism, the motivation, and the collaboration that it takes for the impact that these dollars should produce, and thankfully generally do produce. This is our only purpose. So through teacher grants, major grants, targeted professional development, and then significant project support, we're honored to work with you to enhance public education. And we want you to know that without question, that we love working with each of you toward that end. Do you have any questions for us?
No question, but I'd like to thank all of you for what you do. It's remarkable.
Yes.
It really is.
Most welcome. It's a joy. Peggy?
I just want to say we're so fortunate to have the foundation here in Cleveland and Bradley County. It's wonderful, and we just appreciate you all so much. It's I don't know how many other communities are fortunate enough to have a foundation. Do you have any idea?
No, there are a lot of public education
there?
foundations.
Well, we're probably the
And
best. Y'all are the best.
undoubtedly, yeah, that's undoubtedly. Just like, this organization, Cleveland City Schools, is on its way to being number one. And we have every desire to be a part of that.
Lynn, I'll take the opportunity since this is the last time I'll have you here for an update when I'm here, just to say thank you from me. I appreciate all the work that the foundation, but specifically you do to find donors for projects that benefit our kids and our classrooms. It's amazing work. I remember the very first time I met you was when I was being introduced. We had an event at the museum, which I didn't know that even existed, and I showed up. I didn't know you. I didn't know any of the board at that time, but y'all just made me feel at home and welcome, and I appreciate that. From that point forward, we've built a really good relationship, and I appreciate all the work you've done.
Thank you. And we've appreciated you just so much.
Thank you.
And we wish you well. We are sad, but we're glad for you. We know that your motivation to do it was stellar. I'm sure the first time we met you, we asked you for a contribution, so.
You did.
Thank you.
Can we ask him for one on the way out?
There's one coming. There's one coming.
Already done.
Already done.
Thanks, Lynn.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda, we have a strategic plan focus. I'll turn that over to Dr. Dyer for these segments.
Okay, I'm going to bring Cliff Eason up. He has a update dealing with school safety, and Cliff Eason, you're on the floor.
Okay. Thank you very much for coming, for allowing me to come before you today to just give a few updates regarding the safety program. What I'm going to try to concentrate on, next slide, please. What I'm going to try to concentrate on to start off with is our funding sources. This year has been a little bit different in that we had a public school security grant. That's a one-time grant that we applied for and received this year. It wasn't really competitive, but you did have to turn in quite a bit of information about our system in order to be able to receive those funds. This is an allotment of funds that the governor came up with to try and improve safety across the state. So every school system across the state could apply for these funds, and then you received an allotment based on what you turned into them. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about what that budget looks like in the next slide, but I want to touch on just a couple of other funding sources that we have as well. Excuse me. TISA is one funding source that we utilize and have used this year. It has been great to have that additional funding. We have used that to help, I guess, substitute or substantiate the public school security grant that we have. Excuse me, I'm sorry. We have used that to probably really kind of cover some of the smaller items that we have in our safety program. Sorry, I've got a drink right here.
Oh, okay, he's got water. He's got water.
Sorry, I apologize. My voice has been a little weak since my recent health issues. So anyway, we use that as well. Also, other department contributions help us as well throughout the year, and have for a number of years, actually. We utilize technology department as well as operations. Transportation department also helps with a number of safety items that we purchase and utilize throughout the year as well. But I want to go ahead and, if you'll go to the next slide, please. I want to talk about our public school security grant. Again, we received $231,205.22 this year. We had to come up with a budget specifically for that grant in order to submit and receive the funds that we did. The first line item there is access control. That was electronic door lock systems. You all are probably familiar with having the key card and going up to the door, scanning it, and then the door unlocks and you're able to go in. We allocated $125,000 for those particular systems this year. We just completed 2 schools, Arnold and Mayfield, in which we installed those systems. And that's been very beneficial to the teachers for safety in particular. If a teacher is out on the playground with their students and there is some sort of an emergency, some sort of situation where they need to get inside very quickly, they can go to the closest exterior door, scan their card, and come right in. So that's been very, it's convenient for the teachers as well, so they've enjoyed that. But it's really a safety issue for us, and that's why we included that. We intend to do that at a number of schools moving throughout the system as well. We've just started with these other 2 schools that I mentioned earlier. Surveillance is another area where we constantly want to improve. With security cameras in particular, we always have to replace those each and every year. They are always expensive. They are not cheap. We did allocate $75,000 for those cameras. Administrators come up with cameras that need to be replaced each year, but they also come up with different areas in order for us to install new cameras that have come to light as far as what their needs are. Perimeter control is basically fencing. We like to do strategic fencing, so we don't just put a fence all the way around a school, for example. But anytime you do fencing, you have to do chains and locks and things like that for the gates as well. So we allocated $15,000 for that this year. That primarily is going to go to Candies Creek Elementary, where we are fencing an area in the back of their school. Access control, another part of access control is exterior doors and windows, and this is treatments to what you can see in, basically, in the window itself or in the glass door. And so what we wanted to accomplish there was putting up blinds, tinting, do some filming, film applications as well, so that people can't see into the school. You can see out without any problem, but you can't see into the school. And so we've allocated $10,000 there. Signage is another part of our budget. Each and every year, we put up signs in the front of the schools or in the main entrances of the schools referring to no smoking or no drugs, no weapons, that sort of thing. And each year, we do replace some of those, but this allotment basically is really for us to put up a numbering system around every school. We just recently completed this project at one of our schools at Arnold Elementary. If you go to Arnold, you will see they have 19 different exterior doors. We have numbered each one of those doors, and what that is for is any time that a first responder reports to that campus, whether it's EMT or whether it's CPD or fire department, we can give them the number of that door, and that will help them to get to that emergency quicker. And so we are trying to do that throughout every school within the school system. And about 4 or 5 schools currently have that in place. Next slide, please. I want to talk a little bit about threat assessment as well. This is new in the past couple of years. Last year, we sort of got this going in our system, created a threat assessment team, which consisted of 4 members. This year, the state has put some other qualifications in regard to that program that we have worked on. For one, you all receive a report each and every month detailing any information regarding threat assessments that might have been conducted in our school system. That is a requirement that we do that each and every month. In addition to that, we also have to report to Homeland Security. They have an online platform that we submit information into. It is confidential. It is basically just statistical information. But every quarter, we have to submit information to Homeland Security regarding any type of threat assessment that we've completed. Also, with our threat assessment team, again, as I said, we expanded that team this year. We've included 8 individuals on that team. And those members on that team represent administrators, central office folks, counselors, people that have good backgrounds that we feel like would be beneficial in a wide range of backgrounds that we feel like would be beneficial in addressing any threat assessments. Those individuals will participate in some upcoming training this month and next month. There are some online sessions that they have to participate in, and then in March we'll actually have an in-person training that will last basically a day that they will participate in as well. So we're excited about that. You don't have to have that training, but it is offered to us for free. So we felt like it would be beneficial for us to participate in that. The state doesn't require it at this time, however, but there is I guess a consortium that involves TOSS, it involves the Department of Justice, and a couple of other people that pay for that grant, essentially, for school systems to participate in that training. So we'll be doing that over the next couple of months. Also wanted to mention that we do have a Homeland Security agent, special agent that is assigned to Bradley County that will serve Bradley County schools and Cleveland City schools. I think he's also assigned to McMinn County as well. This is another new initiative that the governor has put in place all across the state, where Homeland Security agents will be a resource for school systems to call upon, not only in regard to threat assessment, but also in regard to just safety initiatives in general. I have met Paul Allen, who is our representative. Seems to be a very nice man. He is from Bradley County, and so he's very familiar with Bradley County schools and our system to some degree. We did have a chance to sit down and talk and just give him some background information, but he's from this area. He has worked with the Sheriff's Department, and so he does know a good bit about our systems already. So that's basically what I wanted to share with you tonight. I apologize for my weak voice, but if you have any questions, I'll be glad to try and answer. Yes, ma'am.
Cliff, what exactly does threat assessment entail? Where are the ramifications for threats?
It can entail a lot of different things, but basically it's some sort of threat to a school or a school system by a student or by a staff member or by some sort of outside source. It can be an electronic threat, or it can be a verbal threat, for example. But it is a time when we would, as a team, come together, evaluate that threat, and decide how we need to move forward. And usually what we will do is that team will come together, we will review the information, the facts that we know in regard to that threat, but we will also bring in a number of different people outside of that team. We'll bring in the police department, we'll bring in administration from that school, we'll bring in central office staff like Dr. Dyer or Dr. Elliott, and evaluate what that threat is. Is it a credible threat? And then what we need to do to move forward to address that, to make sure that we're safe.
Great.
It's a pretty complex process, actually, but hopefully we don't have to do that very often. Yes, ma'am.
Our SROs, are they part of the threat assessment team?
Yes, ma'am, they are. The team itself is really just Cleveland City Schools staff members, but an SRO, if we received a threat from, say, Cleveland High School, for example, the SRO from Cleveland High School would then sit in on that team and assist us with whatever that situation may be. And then we also reach out to Cleveland Police Department, to Officer Corey Fox, who is the supervisor of the SROs, for assistance with any type of threat that we may receive as well.
Have you had a lot of threats, say, the first part of the school year?
No, ma'am. We've had 4 different situations throughout the whole year that we have addressed. Most of those, I would say, have been pretty minor, but you don't know that necessarily when they first come to you, and so you have to be thorough and investigate as best as you can to figure out what is happening and how we need to mitigate the problem and move forward. But 4 so far this year.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you for your time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, next on the agenda, we have a student representatives update from Ms. Ava Davis.
Hello. Like they just said, I'm Ava Davis. I'm from Cleveland High School. So these are just some updates of what's been going on at Cleveland. So obviously, like Dr. Dyer said at the beginning of the meeting, which I don't know if you guys remember, we went to our wrestling teams. Our boys and girls both went to state, and we both won. So that was very exciting. 7th time in a row, and we're excited because there's gonna be more. I just know it. We're gonna make it to at least 10. That's the goal. An academic kind of update is that the seniors had their Tea and Promise meeting, which is just a mandatory meeting that we all have to go to qualify for that 2 years free at Cleveland State or whatever community college we choose. And then also some other scholarships like UT Promise and stuff. Baseball is going to have its first game this month. Swim just finished up their season. They had their senior night, and I'm pretty certain that they qualified for state. So that's going to be really exciting for them. We also had our winter dance that was hosted by SGA. Students had a great time from what I heard. I was unfortunately sick, so I didn't even get to go, but that's okay. Everybody had a great time. Also, on the more arts side, Mr. Markham, the theater director at Cleveland High School, announced the senior play, or not senior play, the spring play, sorry, which will be Alice in Wonderland, which will be really exciting. I think he's gonna have some of the elementary schools try to come and watch, so that'll be good for them. And then also Renaissance started their competition season. They competed this last weekend. I don't know if they qualified, but they did get the Most Spirit Award. And then we also had the theater department go to ThesCon, which is just a big meeting of all of the Tennessee theater programs where you get to do like a bunch of workshops and stuff. And we had 3 people at Cleveland High School win All-State, and those people were Joey Bond, Alana Davis, and Anaya Purifori, which I know I pronounced her last name wrong. And yeah, also, in the spirit of February, Key Club is gonna sell carnations. So I always think that's really sweet because people can buy their girlfriends or boyfriends their little flowers and they get sent to them during class. But yeah, that's my update.
Good job.
Thank you, Ava, we appreciate that.
You're welcome.
All right, next on the agenda, do we have any updates from the Facilities Committee?
No, no updates.
All right, next, do we have any updates from Legislative?
No, we don't.
All right, so the last thing on the agenda is appointments of board committee assignments for 2024, 2025. And so for the Facilities Committee, I'm going to be appointing Andy Lay as the chair, Krista McKay and Peggy Pesterfield as the members. For the Legislative Network representative to TSBA, I'm going to be appointing Carolyn Ingram. For Policy Review Committee, we're going to be appointing Jody Riggins and Matthew Coleman. And just as for the Policy Committee, I just wanted to mention that all board members are encouraged to participate in policy development and review, as that is our voice to the system. So make sure you're reading those and adjusting as necessary. Okay? Any questions, any new business, any concerns? All right, last but not least, I'll be calling a special meeting so we can vote on some of the things that are pending for this search, including a contract for the interim director. So we'll start that process immediately, and I wanted to make sure you knew that, and so we'll have to meet and vote on that. So if there is nothing else, I'd like to entertain a motion for we adjourning this meeting.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, 7:32, Cleveland City Schools Board of Education. Win.